We have just lost James Maina Wanjigi. Very many people know him as Maina Wanjigi. His name was James Maina Wanjigi. One of his children, for reasons that only members of the family may know, he named one of his children, Jimmy Maina Wanjigi. Kikuyu tradition, he should have been Maina Wanjigi and his son would have been Wanjigi Maina. But for reasons that maybe only the family knows, his son is Jimmy Maina Wanjigi and he is James Maina Wanjigi. He is more known as Maina Wanjigi and his son is much known as Jimmy Wanjigi. There is a lot of things people do not know that are associated with this person. After learning that he has died, I went to check with the Google. I have checked a lot of things with the Google of various people, but I find that things that were happening when I was in my secondary school that I know, Google has, I just use Google at least for rough idea, or what we call in technical drawing, rough estimate. But then the real one, it reminds me of something, and then I sit down and then really come up. In that I think Google should come and look for me. Now, every trading center, every place in Kenya, we have a place where people buy Mitumba clothes. Mitumba clothes. This is the father of Mitumba. Younger people just understand from me that this is the founder of Mitumba, and I'll tell you. If you are going to, if you are using Landis Road, there is on one side, between Gikomba, between Kamukunji, and between Bama, that three area, you'd find that there is a lot of welding, there is a lot of metalwork, there is a lot of, if you have poor ears, you'll really suffer. He is the father for that. And is also the father of Moroto village next to Machakos bus stop. Imagine one person, one individual who is Nialeo, Mitumba Nialeo, 20 bob. For that, he is the one who started that almost single-handedly. I'm using the word almost single-handedly because if you do something alone, people look at you, it will really end, isn't it? I'll start his history. A lot of young people tell me that I should, whenever I start a topic, I should give a brief of what I'm going to talk, then I'll talk about it in detail. We all know Tom Mboya. Tom Mboya was a minister in Jomo Kenyatta time, and he was shot just next to Hilton Hotel, or next to National Archives. So when he was killed, Maina Wanjigi contested the Kamukunji seat on and became, that was 1969, and became the MP for that place for I think 25 years. Another thing, and actually, this is where I'm talking about Google being wrong. Google being wrong. And if anybody who was there during my time can comment about it, because that thing I don't agree with what Google is saying. According to Google, is that in 1973 he he campaigned for free primary education and really talked on advantages. He said Kenya is backward because we pay for fees, primary school fees, and we pay for primary school fees, which, if we were to make education free, we would a lot of Kenyans would be enlightened. He addressed the parliament in 1973 about that. But where Google is wrong, he says that that story was placed in the banners until Kibaki came 2003 and started free primary education. Nothing is further from the truth. Let me talk about free primary education because I was there. When Maina Wanjigi talked about free education in 1970, and please, if you find this one very educative, make sure that you spread it to as many people as possible. Because this, I talked of him being the father of Mitumba. He is also the father of free primary education. He's the one who stood in parliament and said that the advantages of students just going to school is good. And in 1974, January 1974, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta said, I remember in 1974 I used to pay school fees at Mbagathi Road Primary School, 20 shillings per term. That is 60 shillings per year. An order came. I have a brother, my second follower. We were with him in the same school. My sister who follows me was in a boarding school. So, but in anybody who was in standard 1 in 1974 paid nothing. Jomo Kenyatta said that kids from standard 1 to standard 4 were not to pay a single cent. Parents were only paying for school fees and school meals. We used to have supro and burga. This food used to be prepared just opposite Pumwani Maternity Hospital, next to Pumwani High School. So, education was free. Uniform, the parents pay. In 1974, Google is not talking about that. Google is saying that he talked that. That was 1973. And from 1973 to 203, that is 30 years later. 83 is 10, 93, 20. Yeah, 30 years later is when his idea, no. He talked of it in 1973. And in 1974, Kenyatta said throughout Kenya that in public schools, standard 1 up to standard 4, no fees. 1974, I was in standard 6. So 1975, those who were in standard 4 went to standard 5. So 1975, anybody who was in standard 5, standard 1 to standard 5, paid nothing in public school, 1975. 1976, they went to standard 6. Yeah, 1974 it was standard up to standard 4. 1975, standard 6. 1976, standard 6. And 1977, the whole primary they didn't pay in public primary schools. Take it from my neck-top computer. Now, that was 1977. And they wanted now to think about how public secondary school will not pay fees. When they were planning for that secondary school will not pay fees, That is when it was decided. I mean, that is when Kenyatta died. It was not decided. Yeah, God decided to take Kenyatta. That is what he did in school feeding program. When Moi came, you see, it had reached standard 7. Now, when Moi came, he came up with this building fund. Now, if you are paying school fees, let's say 50 shillings, and during Moi's time, they were saying no school fees. But if during our time, maybe I used to pay 20, but let's say now it had gone up to, let's say 30 or 50. Now it was 50 shillings. Now it was 50 shillings. Now instead of it being 50 shillings, you are told you are not going to pay 50 shillings school fees. You are educated free, but you will pay 100 shillings building fund. Yeah, Moi came up with something that is called a building fund. So you'd find some people, take somebody who goes to the same school, standard 1 up to standard 8. During Moi's time, primary school didn't pay school fees, but they paid building fund. So if you studied in one school, like over 90% of us, me I'm not included, those who went to one school for 8 years, 844, maybe you repeated it twice, you'd complete in primary school 10 years, isn't it? For 10 years, you'd pay for building funds. Where did the building fund go? I can tell you, and I want to tell people, especially my younger brothers and sisters who are 10 years younger than me, to remember the schools that they were in, and they'll tell you that they joined the school in standard 1, completed 8, and maybe even repeated it twice to complete 10 years there. But every time they used to pay for building fund, and no building was built. That is one thing that Maina Wanjigi did. Maina Wanjigi allocated Juakali sheds. If you are going to, where do we start? Let us say you are starting from Machakos. When you are starting from Machakos and you are going towards airport, you will find that there is this Kamukunji welders and Juakali people. He is the one who brought those people welding. And he is the one who started this Gikomba Mitumba. They later came to be called Mitumba, but originally they were not Mitumba. Originally, what started was this. You have your clothes you wear, and then you want to buy new ones. And then instead of the old one, you would give it to those people at Gikomba, and they would sell it, resell it, second hand. And I even remember people even, there's a time people used to call it, people used to call those clothings Marehemu George, Marehemu George, because they were saying stories started coming at maybe some people even go to the mortuary and dress those are stories which nobody ever proven. So he's the one who started that open air, and other places, Kinatoi, go anywhere, any town in Kisii, there is Daraja Mbili, you'll find open air market selling clothes. It started over as clothes, Gikomba. Later it went anything. I think in Gikomba you can buy anything. So he's the one who introduced that. Later on, people started bringing the second-hand clothing from abroad, which were tied in bundles, in bells, and bells in Kiswahili are called Mitumba. Mitumba, yeah. So nguo zangu nyingi zimewekwa kwa mtumba mmoja. That is why people started call it nguo za mitumba. So hata hii yangu hii ni mtumba nimevaa. So if you have a mtumba like me, you should recognize that he is the one who brought that mtumba to Kenya. Lastly, because I decided to talk about Maina Wanjigi on things that are not there on Google, I wanted to talk about things that if you check with any other person, they'll tell you that they are hearing it for the first time from the neck top. The other thing is that he settled some landless people. He settled some landless people next to Machakos bus station. He settled them with they were landless, and I can tell you those years, landless people were genuine landless, not like today, because even me with my 6 acres at home, if land is found, you can include my name to be a landless person. So those days, landless were genuine people, genuine landless people. He went and picked people from all over Nairobi who were landless. I remember that day he was a minister. Can't recall which, because he had served several ministries, and he was very good in agriculture because he had a diploma in agriculture in Makerere, had a bachelor's degree in Britain, and even a master's in economics in Britain. So he was very good in agriculture. There was a time he was an assistant minister for agriculture, and he was even a full minister. There was a time, I can't recall which ministry he was in, but there's a time in 1979 that I don't know whether it was 19, but let us take, there is a time he went abroad on official duties, and when he was abroad, the Nairobi City Council was not there. It was called Nairobi City Commission under huyu Kangumu. Kangumu was the commission chairman, equivalent to mayor. Gumo, yeah. Gumo was the chairman of the commission. So when Gumo went there with the city council, I think they wanted to build something there, and these people were landless. So he went at night, broke the houses, chased those people, while Maina Wanjigi was abroad. When Maina Wanjigi came, the first thing he did was to condemn that. He said, of course, any land next to Machakos bus station is expensive. Why don't you move these landless people to allocate them another land, then you can now bring your maendeleo there. Gumo told him, I did it what I did and there's nothing you can do. He answered to Gumo and said, I am a minister and you are an equivalent to a mayor. Then shortly after, President Moi relieved him of his position as a minister. He later lost the seat. Nicholas Gore. There was something Nicholas Gore. Trying to remember, forgive me. Nicholas Gore. He lost the seat to Nicholas Gore, and then he stayed out for 5 years. And I remember he tried his luck in Mathioya. He came from Mathioya. He didn't make it in Mathioya. That was 1997. And then retired and went to the background. That for you is James Maina Wanjigi. But mostly he was known as Jimmy Wanjigi.